Welcome to Counterpunch with Trevor Loudon, the show that details the rapidly unfolding world communist revolution. Please like the show, share the show, and subscribe on EpochTV. Today I want to talk about Ukraine. I want to talk about the Russian propaganda offensive around Ukraine. Russian propaganda has been with us since the days of the Bolshevik Revolution, but it's gone into overdrive in the last few weeks in preparation for Russia's war on Ukraine, basically trying to turn Western public opinion to at least neutrality, if not actually cheering Russia on. And it is working to a large degree. For many years, Russians used the traditional communist parties to spread their propaganda. The Communist Party USA, Communist Party of Britain, Australia, France, Germany, etc. They're still doing that. They're still using the left as they've always done. But now, in recent years, they also started using the right. They started using conservatives and libertarians and social conservatives and Christians to spread their propaganda. In the old days, it was all about communism. Now it is about neutralizing what the people who should be opponents of Russia, of communism, into turning them into fans, or at least neutral to what Putin and his cohorts are doing in Ukraine. Now it's basically all about justifying the invasion and neutralizing opposition to that invasion. This has been coming through for some years. It came through the alt-right movement, it came through the libertarian movement, some elements of the Ron Paul movement, and some prominent social conservative elements in the United States. Now it has seeped into some elements of the Republican Party, which is a very, very serious thing and will be used by the Democrats against conservatives in the next election. I can guarantee you that. There's a number of themes that we're hearing all the time. The first one is Putin is a Christian. Putin is on our side. He's against the New World Order. He is trying to save Europe and America from the Muslim hordes, from the radical gays, from the abortionists, the radical left, etc. He's a champion of Christianity and family values. Another one is that we shouldn't confront Putin, because if we do, if we confront Russia, that will drive them into the arms of China. And anyway, Ukraine is a pawn of the globalists. It's in bed with George Soros and the New World Order, where Putin is doing us a favor by invading Ukraine and shutting everything down there. And they have bioweapons labs there. And Putin is trying to save us from a big pandemic. We should be so grateful to Putin for this. And Ukraine, of course, is also a Nazi country. It's full of Nazis, and we should be welcoming the end of these Nazis, just like we welcomed the end of the Nazis in World War II. And after all of this is NATO's fault. This is America's fault and NATO's fault for pushing at the borders of Russia, of wanting to protect Ukraine and countries neighboring Russia from Russian aggression. It's our fault, it's NATO's fault for poking the bear, and the bear has finally fought back. But ultimately, the only way to stop this is to disband NATO, so Russia has no longer anything to worry about. Now, all of this is pure Russian propaganda. There is little bits of truth in some of these things. There are elements there that all propaganda takes a grain of truth, but ultimately all these propaganda points are designed to weaken Western support for Ukraine, divide Ukraine inside itself, and justify a brutal aggression against a neighboring sovereign state. Much of this is presented on the internet as secret knowledge. There's all these websites out there that do these great analyses, and they look at the bioweapons labs, and they look at Zelensky going to a World Economic Forum meeting, and they draw all these conclusions, and they add a little bit of QAnon stuff in there, and people are swallowing it like you wouldn't believe. And it's all coming from the computers of Russian intelligence in Moscow and Leningrad and other places. I want to deal with first couple of points first, and maybe some of the others in later episodes. How did millions of Western Christians, politicians, and social conservatives come to believe that Putin is a man of God, a Christian? How is this possible? A KGB killer is now a man of God, a man who is secretly baptized and is really on our side. Well, the Russian intelligence services realized a long time ago that to dominate the West, they would need to control not just the left, but also the right. They would need to appeal to conservatives and Christians and at least neutralize them. At least get them so they would accept Russia as an equal partner on the world stage, not as a malevolent superpower that it actually is. They've done this before, during World War II, the early Bolsheviks closed down all the Orthodox churches in Russia and murdered priests and suppressed the church. But during World War II, when the Nazis invaded, they opened the churches. They relished Christianity because they could use Christians as a patriotic force against the Nazis. They could use the Christian churches to build support for the communist regime against the Nazis. And ever since that time, the Russian KGB has completely controlled the Russian Orthodox Church. Russians know this. It's no secret. The leaders of the church are KGB agents, but people still go to church because they still believe in, they're still Christians. It's much like Catholics still go to church in the West, but they know that Pope Francis is a leftist. He's a Marxist, but they're still part of the church. So Putin has made hay with this. He gets photographed all the time with Russian Orthodox Church officials. He's made a good relationship with Pope Francis. He appears at baptisms. He appears at religious ceremonies. He's been known to wear a crucifix. He's talked about his Christian past and hinted at a possible early baptism. This is all designed to basically suck in what KGB believes are naive and gullible Western Christians. In 1995, two Moscow sociology professors, Anatoly Antonov and Viktor Medkov, started an organization with prominent American social conservatives called the World Congress of Families. And it was based on family values and ending abortion and battling the gay agenda. And it was designed to bring social conservatives and Christians all around the world into the influence of the Russian founders of this organization. They held conferences in Georgia. Friends of mine attended. They held conferences in Europe. They've sent delegations to the United States to meet with prominent social conservative and Christian organizations here. They made a major effort through people like Alexei Komov and others to convince the American and European right that Putin is with them against the left. Even though Russia is still working with the left, many American and European conservatives think that Putin is with them against the excesses of the extreme left. Well, this World Congress of Families, emphasizing abortion and homosexuality, that appealed to the conservative elements. But it also makes sense for the Russians, because the Russians want to reduce abortion because they're losing so many people, and they know that homosexuality, especially in the armed forces, etc., is very divisive. It hurts the war effort. Never mind that it was American communists like Harry Hay, pro-Soviet communists, that started the Western gay rights movement, and that the abortion movement in the West has always been influenced and guided by pro-Soviet communists and Trotskyists, etc. The thing is this: they want to promote homosexuality and abortion in the West because that will weaken the West. They don't want it at home because they're getting ready for war. So they want to weaken their enemy and strengthen themselves. So it's not a contradictory position to promote these things in Western countries and stamp them out in Russia. But because Putin has made some considered anti-gay statements and has cracked down on abortion and other things, millions of Western conservatives and Christians think Putin is our man. He's our champion. Now, we've seen the effects of this in America. We got prominent American Christians completely sucked in by this. People who should be supporting the Republican Party, people who loved Ronald Reagan standing against the Soviet Union, are now gaga, or have been gaga, over Putin. Brian Brown of the National Organization of Marriage called Putin a lion of Christianity. Here is a little clip from a Republican U.S. Senate candidate in Delaware. See what she says about Putin.
Also, Russia is a Christian nationalist nation. They're actually Orthodox Christian and Russian Orthodox. So, I actually support Putin's right to protect his people and always put his people first, but also protect their Christian values.
But here's what Putin really thinks of Christianity.
Вот коммунистическая идеология, она очень сродни христианству на самом деле. Свобода, братство, равенство. Справедливость. Это же все заложено в Священном Писании. Это все там есть. А кодекс строителей коммунизма? Это сублимация, это просто такая примитивная выдержка из Библии. Ничего там нового не придумали. Вот смотрите, Ленина положили в мавзолей. Но чем это отличается от мощей света?
So why does Putin equate Christianity with communism? Perhaps it's because Putin is a communist. Remember that Putin grew up as a communist. He was in the party. He rose to high rank in the KGB. He took over the Russian intelligence services. That is a communist culture. You cannot belong to those institutions unless you've been a fully indoctrinated communist, completely trustworthy your entire life. This is his world view. He has described the demise of the Soviet Union as the greatest tragedy of the 20th century. That it was an illegal breakup, implying that, well, it would be legal to reinstitute it, would it not? In 2017, Vladimir Putin arranged for 30,000 young communists from all over the world to hold a big international youth festival in Sochi, Russia. Putin personally arranged the venue for these people.
В октябре в России, в городе Сочи, пройдет 19-й Всемирный фестиваль молодежи и студентов. Он посвящен столетию Октябрьской социалистической революции. Мы, молодые коммунисты, призываем вас принять участие в этом грандиозном молодежном форуме.
Всемирный фестиваль молодежи и студентов пройдет в городе Сочи.
Студентов в Сочи собрал всех, кто выступает за мир.
He attended several of the summits there and keynoted, welcomed the delegates to the conference. The conference was all about celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Bolshevik Revolution, and Putin told these young communists from all over the world, who looked adoringly at this man, that the future is theirs.
Спасибо, спасибо, дорогие друзья. Приветствую всех вас в России на 19-м Всемирном фестивале молодежи и студентов. На форуме юности планеты, самым представительным за всю его историю. Здесь, в Сочи, собрались почти 30 тысяч участников, гостей, волонтеров из более чем 180 государств мира, со всех континентов планеты. Создавайте свое будущее, стремитесь изменить этот мир, сделать его лучше. Все в ваших силах. Главное, упорно идти только вперед. А фестивальное братство обязательно поможет вам воплотить в жизнь самые смелые и самые добрые ваши мечты и помыслы. Объявляю 19-й Всемирный фестиваль молодежи и студентов открытым. Добрый путь!
Here's a picture of the Russian delegation about to enter the conference. See the red flags flying? Is that a little bit of a red flag there, folks? Here's a picture of the Communist Party USA delegation. There were many delegations from the United States, but this is the Communist Party USA one. Here is a small delegation from the Communist Party of Britain. And here is the British delegation with the head of the Ukrainian Communist Youth Organization, a man called Mikhail Kononovich. Now, recently, Kononovich was arrested by Ukrainian authorities on suspicion of spying for and helping the Russian invasion. Now, as for driving Russia into the arms of China, I believe Russia and China have been full communist partners since the 1920s. Yes, they had some spats in the 1960s, even a few military exchanges in 1969, I believe it was. If you read Golitsyn's book, the famous book New Lies for Old, Golitsyn was a Russian Soviet intelligence officer who defected in 1961 and predicted the fall of the Soviet Union as a fake collapse. and predicted many of the things we saw coming under Gorbachev and later. He said basically the Russian-Chinese split was fake. It was designed to lull the West into thinking you could play Russia off against China, China off against Russia, and by opening up trade to China and building China up, that would somehow counter Russia. But then he said Russia and China would join together and smite America with one closed fist. That's where I believe we are now. But even if that's a little bit esoteric for you, and I can fully understand why you might think that, it is well documented that since 2001, Russia and China have been joined at the hip in a political, economic and military alliance known as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Iran is also part of that today. A few years ago, Russia and China held the world's largest ever military exercise outside St. Petersburg, a combined military exercise.
"东方系列演习是俄军的战略性演习，它具有层级高、规模大、地域广、演练科目多、联合程度高的特点。这些参演兵力呢，来自中部军区、东部军区、北方舰队，还有空降兵、远程航空兵、战略航空兵。俄军防长称它为是自1981年西部8·1以来史无前例的大规模的演习。俄军现役的明星装备呢，悉数登场。
Russia and China recently held a joint naval exercise within spitting distance of Hawaii. And in January, just a few months ago, Russia, China and Iran held another joint naval exercise in the northern Indian Ocean. So Russia and China are allies. Russia and China are working together. China is helping Russia right now in its war against Ukraine.
Now, China's already been doing that because there have been elevated commodity purchases, for instance. And also we have seen China make its financial system available to sanction Russian institutions. So when you put that all together, China's already provided material aid, and it's been doing that for weeks.
What's the game here? Is Russia getting the whole world on high alert? Is Russia suffering sanctions for just a little bit of Ukraine, just a promise from Ukraine that they won't join NATO? Why is Russia doing this? Why is China helping them? Could it be the closed fist? Could it be that Russia and China sense that America is as weakest as it's ever been? Its military is downgraded. Its President Biden, and I've revealed how he has deep Russian ties, and we're learning now that the Hunter Biden laptops, which detailed Hunter Biden's extensive ties and Joe Biden's extensive ties to China, we're realizing they're not fake. They're real. So there's a president in the White House who's been compromised by both Russia and China. The military's weak. NATO is divided. Germany has a Marxist president in Olaf Scholz. And America just gave Afghanistan to China and has been threatening Taiwan. So is this the coming together? Do Russia and China sense that this will be the best opportunity ever to take America down, finally take America down and establish a global dictatorship? If Ukraine is conquered, are we going to see the conquest of the Baltic states, then a direct confrontation with NATO? Are we going to see a North Korean invasion of South Korea? Are we going to see Chinese attacks in the Pacific? Are we going to see Iranian aggression in the Middle East all at once? Are we going to see EMP attacks in the United States, cyber attacks on Western Europe? Are we going to see new biological warfare? I believe we could be in for all of it, right up to and including nuclear war, if that's what it takes. I actually believe, and I certainly hope I'm wrong, I'd like to be the biggest fool in America for saying this, I think we're in the opening stages of World War III. The kinetic stages. We've been in World War III since World War II, but now I believe we're going into the kinetic stage. And if Ukraine is lost, Europe will be dominated. That will encourage China, Iran to do whatever they have to do. Most of Latin America is already communist. Most of Africa is already controlled by China. Mexico has a communist president. Canada has a socialist president. What's Japan going to do? What's Taiwan going to do if it's not invaded? Which way is India going to go? It's already making friends with Russia when it used to be friends with President Trump and America. So the whole world balance of power is shifting. And this is why Ukraine is so absolutely important. Ukraine is not just some little country in Europe that nobody should care about. Ukraine is important as Poland was before World War II. The invasion of Poland by Germany sparked World War II. Then the Soviets invaded too, by the way. We lose Ukraine, we don't stand up for Ukraine, NATO is going to crumble, and most of Europe is either going to be invaded or throw in their lot with Russia. This will change the whole world balance of power, and America will be completely isolated. What do? Well, we have to give Ukraine every bit of moral support we can, every bit of material support we can, and I know it's not enough and it's too late. If Biden had put weapons in Ukraine and put troops in Ukraine 3 or 4 or 6 months ago, this wouldn't have happened. If President Trump had still been the president, this would not have happened. So what do? We have to stand by Ukraine as much as we possibly can, fortify NATO as much as we possibly can, take a very, very hard line with China and impose sanctions on China, and do not go through with the Iran nuclear deal in any shape or form. And we must mount a big effort to impeach President Biden as quickly as possible for the very survival of this country. Those are the minimal things we need to do right now. People complain, they say, why worry about the Ukraine when our southern border is wide open? Absolutely. The communists are keeping the southern border open. The communists are invading Ukraine. This is a linked operation. In a war, you don't get to choose where you fight. We didn't fight World War II by saying, look, we're just going to fight Japan. We're not going to fight Germany or Italy. We didn't get that choice. Once you fight one, you fight all. Yes, we have to fortify the southern border. Yes, we have to close it. But we also have to defend Ukraine. We have to do both because both are existential threats to the United States and world freedom. It ain't one or the other. So in future episodes, I'm going to deal with more of the Russian propaganda myths that are swirling through our heads on a regular basis. I hope you found this interesting. I hope you found this food for thought. And I hope you'll tune in for future episodes. So I just want to sign out saying this. Only truth can save us now. We're living in a world of lies and propaganda, and only truth can save us now. So God bless America. God bless the brave people of Ukraine and President Zelensky. God bless the patriots around the world who love freedom. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next episode.